CA, Corrections Corporation of America, the largest private prison corporation in the United States, owner and operator of SDC, Stewart Detention Center. With that, it's my privilege now to invite a new friend to me personally, but someone who has marched many miles for the drumbeat of justice, to the drumbeat of justice. One of the members of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee during the Civil Rights Movement, Teresa El Amin, is an activist and union organizer who was involved with the Coalition of Labor Union Women, the Service Employees International Union, the Black Radical Congress, the Black Workers for Justice, Jobs for Justice, Solidarity, and the Durham, North Carolina NAACP. El Amin is also a founding member of the Labor Party and the Southern Anti-Racism Network. So with that, it's my privilege to invite my new friend, Teresa El Amin, resident of Up the Road in Columbus, Georgia.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here, and I want to give a special shout out to all my friends I see from North Carolina. Patrick, Jean, everybody, hello. I told you I would meet you at the gates this year when I moved down here, but I really appreciate Anton inviting me to speak at this important action today. Because I come from a city in North Carolina, Durham, North Carolina, that stood up to the criminalization of immigrants several years ago. There was a time in Durham where housing inspectors would go out to the homes of people perceived to be immigrants, and they would ask everyone for papers. They would stop someone for a traffic stop, and they'd ask everyone in the car for papers. A very powerful organization in Durham, North Carolina, called El Centro Hispano, made the community aware, and we went to the city council and said this must stop. So in 2003, after the Immigrant Workers Freedom Ride, the city of Durham passed an ordinance that said we will not discriminate on the basis of immigration status. That resolution came under attack in 2007, where Durham was identified by some congressional group as one of less than 40 cities that have such ordinances. We say these should be ordinances in every city, not discriminate on the basis of immigration status because of the contributions that we know that immigrants make to the economy and to all the good things that we enjoy. You know, in a few years ago when that Sensenbrenner legislation came up, y'all remember that? Yes. Where they were criminalizing everybody. If you helped someone undocumented, you were guilty of a crime. But in 1850, they passed a fugitive slave law that said the same thing about slaves and blacks. It's the same kind of connection that we have to make as we build the black-brown unity, which is what I'm all about. And I think that we have to do that. We have to do that. A speaker earlier spoke to that, and I'm totally down with that. And so in this community of Lumpkin and throughout Georgia, we have to stand up to HB 87 and say no more. Let's end the discrimination against people based on their immigration status. So are you down with
Thank you so much, Teresa. It's now my honor to introduce a friend of Teresa's who is on a speaking tour right now. She's from California. Her name is Alejandra Juarez. She is the immigrant rights organizer with Alliance for Just Immigration Policy of Northern California, and once again is on a speaking tour co-sponsored by La Alianza and the Emergency Labor Network. Alejandra Juarez.
Hola a todos, ¿cómo estamos? Como dijo el compañero, I'm straight from California. I've been on the road for 2 weeks now. speaking about precisely the issue that we're all here today for, which is human rights and workers' rights. Because immigrants are workers. They're not here on vacation. They're here to look for work. They're here because they can't make a living in their home countries anymore. They're here because they're being displaced by policies of the US government, policies like trade agreements, policies like war, intervention, funding coups like in Honduras recently. And this goes beyond the issue of immigration though. And the sisters before me have spoke of brown and black unity, and I'm also down for that. I don't know, who's down for that? Because no one is safe when these corporations are taking over, when they're profiting from the suffering of immigrants in these detention centers and from us, our whole communities, corporations like CCA. And we need to come together. The government is also attacking us with budget cuts, foreclosures. All of these policies need to go, and we need to come together in unity, porque, like Cesar Chavez said, la unión hace la fuerza, and we all need to be together to move on and change the system, because it's not just that it's the immigration law that is broken, it's this system that is broken, this system that is rotten, and that needs to change. So we need to come together. Thank you.
This detention center opened 5 years ago, actually, on their Facebook page for Corrections Corporation of America. They were celebrating the 5th anniversary of this place of abuse and inhumanity. 4 years ago, we held our very first vigil at this place, and shortly thereafter, I had the privilege of getting to meet Azadeh Shashahani with the ACLU of Georgia, where along with her and a handful of us, we formed Georgia Detention Watch, a coalition of individuals who are determined to hold corporations like Corrections Corporation of America and federal departments like Immigration and Customs Enforcement accountable for what they're doing in this state and in our name. And so it's my privilege now to introduce you my close friend, Azadeh Shashahani with the ACLU of Georgia.
Sí se puede. 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 Thank you very much. It's my honor today to be joined by all of you, but especially by Pedro Guzman. And by his wife Emily Guzman and their son Logan. Who fought so hard on his behalf and who achieved, all of us achieved this really important victory for justice. It's really a special day for all of us today. You know, a couple of months ago when we came down to Stewart and we asked CCA for a tour of the facility, we asked them to tour the segregation unit, the solitary confinement unit, and they refused. Even though we asked them a couple of times, they would not let us go to segregation. So I wonder, what were they trying to hide? And what were they afraid of? Could it be that they were afraid that we would see the inhumanities that they're subjecting our immigrant brothers to? Because we know that solitary confinement and segregation by its nature is inhumane. We know that the UN, a special rapporteur on torture and inhumane treatment, has declared indefinite and solitary confinement, has asked for it to be banned. And especially for people with mental disabilities, it should never be used. That's what the special rapporteur has said. However, what we're seeing in Stewart is that people with mental disabilities, instead of getting the care that they need, the treatment that they need, They're being subjected to segregation. Detainees such as Hermes with bipolar disorder, instead of getting the treatment that he needs when he has a panic attack, he's subjected to segregation. Shame. 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 In his words, this is torture. As Georgians, as people of conscience, are we going to stand by and let this go by without saying anything? No! We cannot stand silent, because silence in the face of oppression is unacceptable. We have to speak up, and together we can shut Stewart down. 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 Thank you, and I look forward to the day that we all come together, back together again, and can celebrate the closure of this center of inhumanity and injustice. Thank you all for your work. Thank you.
Thank you, Azadeh. That concludes this first part of our vigil. What that means now is we're going to prepare for the processional. As we do that, let me just read first. I want to read a list of the growing number of organizations, both Georgia and national, that are becoming concerned. As you can see, that this is a growing movement of expression of frustration and incredulity at the existence of these types of facilities. The list of endorsing organizations, and I know that there are many others out there, but that I have include the ACLU of Georgia, Alterna, the Asian American Legal Advocacy Center, Athens Immigrant Rights Coalition, Atlanta Friends Meeting Social Concerns Committee, Coalición de Líderes Latinos de Dalton, Cobb Immigrant Alliance, Cuéntame, Detention Watch Network, Dignidad Inmigrante in Athens, DreamActivist.org, Enlace, Formerly Incarcerated and Convicted People Movement, Florida Immigration Coalition, Georgia Detention Watch, Georgia Immigrants and Refugees Rights Coalition, Georgia Latino Alliance for Human Rights, Georgia Peace and Justice Coalition, Georgia Rural Urban Summit, Georgia Students for Public Higher Education, Georgia's Undocumented Youth Alliance, Grassroots Leadership, International Action Center, International Center of Atlanta, Latinos in Information Sciences and Technology Association, or LISTA, National Action Networks Atlanta Chapter. Yay! There you go. Yay! National Exodus Council, National Justice Coalition, Nipponsan Myohoji Atlanta Dojo, the Ordinary People Society, Prodigal Child Project, Southern Anti-Racism Network, Southerners on New Ground, and Students Working for Equal Rights. And all of you. But of course, we also cannot, I must point out, and I was saving this, thank you, for last to say, we are also highly indebted to School of the Americas Watch for joining with us and recognizing that the increasing militarism of our hemisphere and our increasing clamping down on the detention of immigrants all come from the same root imperialistic causes that cause so many to be so desperate, and then our trade policies and other policies pushing them off their lands and into our fields, and then now into our for-profit detention centers. So thank you so much, School of the Americas Watch, for your tireless modeling for us and inspiration to us, and now allowing us to collaborate with you on this endeavor. With that, I'd like to now begin the processional, and here's how we're going to do this. Actually,